Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host, Konstantin Polyakov, the Pocket Broker, as always. Guys, we have a really special guest today, Mr. Paul Nadeau.
Thank you.
Paul is a former hostage negotiator, UN international peacekeeper, and detective in major crimes.
That's correct.
And you know what? Without me trying to list any more accolades on Paul's list, I'd say, Brendan, why don't you just put the reel through?
Paul Nadeau is a former police detective and hostage negotiator. So first, Paul, let's take a look at this. This is the
police detective who completed an exemplary 31-year service career, during which he specialized in hostage and crisis negotiations, international peacekeeping, professional interrogations, and domestic violence sensitivity training. Paul Nadeau is a regular consultant for CBC World News, CNN, Global News, the Toronto Star, and other major media for his hostage negotiations, peacekeeping, and terrorism expertise.
Having retired from police work, Paul is now an international instructor, lecturer, motivational speaker, and the author of Hostage to Myself, a book dedicated to helping others overcome self-sabotaging thoughts that hold them back in life. Paul was the closing speaker at the TEDx Toronto conference last October and is committed to helping people break down barriers that make them, in his words, hostage to themselves. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Yes, welcome.
Former police detective, hostage negotiator, and international peacekeeper, J. Paul Nadeau has spent more than 30 years working with victims and perpetrators and learning from top experts in murder investigations and terrorist attacks. In his new book, Take Control of Your Life, he combines his personal experiences and insights to help readers overcome the self-sabotaging thoughts and attitudes and achieve their goals. And he joins us now. Paul, nice to
So, wow, that was quite a bit already, and that was just from the very first half that we wanted to cover. By the way, also, Paul is a regular guest in SiriusXM, keynote speaker, released the latest book called Take Control of Your Life. That's your second book.
It's actually my first book. My first book was I self-published under the title Hostage to Myself. And as the universe would have it, and luck would have it, one of the editorial directors at HarperCollins ordered a copy after seeing my profile on a speaker's bureau. And he invited me for coffee on my birthday last year.
Quite a surprise?
Yeah, quite surprised, but delighted. And then he pulls out a copy of my self-published book and says, "We want to publish this worldwide." And I said, "Yes, indeed, thank you."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, there's two books we have. You're keynote speaker, SiriusXM regular guest. I also know that you did a TED Talk, which we'll talk about a little bit later in our show. But without really me talking any longer, I just kind of wanted to give you a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Introduce yourself to our audience. Our audience is very entrepreneurial minded. I think this is an excellent topic for them because we're talking about negotiations, taking control of your life, a very unique career path as well, which is we always like to expose that a little bit because there are so many ways people get from point A to point Z, and I think this is an incredible journey. So without me talking for too much longer, share a little bit about your history.
Sure.
And how did you really get into all this business?
Okay, to begin, hi everybody. Glad you're here. And yeah, how I really started in this. I'll start back from the very beginning. As a young boy living in my household, my father was a very abusive man. He used to beat my mother, my brother, and I felt really defenseless to protect myself and my family from my dad. So at the age of 7, I decided that when I grew up, I was going to become a policeman so that I could arrest people like my dad.
Yeah.
And it was in the back of my mind that when I was a police officer, I'd probably arrest him. But he killed himself when I was 17, so I never got a chance to arrest him. But I did become a policeman. And by then I had learned, because of the restrictions my father put on me and because of the demands my father had put on me, he had taught me to go out and ask for work at the age of 12. I had to bring in room and board.
Wow.
So I learned how to negotiate with adults, like,
Okay.
and lie about my age. Obviously, I was 12, and you could work at a restaurant doing busboy work at the age of 14, so I could pass for 14, and I
That's
did.
right.
So I got a job. I learned how to interact with adults because I had to. My mom was a great saleswoman, and she was a dear heart, and she taught me a little bit about sales at the age of 10. I used to go on radio programs and talk about my mom's great encyclopedias and how everybody had to get these encyclopedias because they were so good that my mom was selling. But that taught me a lot. Both of them had taught me a number of different skills. My father also taught me courage indirectly. After joining the police department, I started to negotiate for better jobs, and I got into the detective office. I really wanted to work as a detective. I didn't want to be a street cop. I wanted to be a detective.
Mm-hmm.
And once I joined the ranks of being a detective, I went into the sexual assault and child abuse unit, and I did a lot of interrogations. And interrogations, everybody hates the word interrogations because it implies that there's force that's, that's subjected upon a person to get them to confess. Really, the way that I look at an interrogation is more like a negotiation where you consider the individual, as much as you consider what your wants and needs are, and that's really what negotiating is. So I was very successful in that area. Later, I managed, to apply for the position of a hostage negotiator, and I got selected, which was a tremendous experience. I did that for several years. The United Nations in 2004 were looking for peacekeepers to serve in a number of different places across the world. And at that period of my police training, my police career, I was teaching, and I had several classes of police officers I was teaching there, and they selected me to go to Jordan on a peacekeeping mission.
Wild.
I know, it was great. When I came back, I was a polygraph examiner. Then I retired in 2010 to pursue an acting career. But as circumstances would have it, I had to switch that over after a divorce. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. Now I have to reevaluate, which is what many of us have to do. We have a straight line in which we think that we're going.
In your mind, you have a straight line.
You do.
The reality is it's never straight.
That's it. I look at life as this way. There are 3 time periods: the past, the present, and the future, obviously. The past we can't change.
That's right.
So whatever has happened, has happened. The present is the most important moment in our life because in this moment we can connect with people.
That's right.
In this moment we can influence people. This is the most important moment of my life, being with you right now.
Love it.
Yeah, it is. I can plan for the future, but nothing guarantees me that I have the future. And using that philosophy, I've discovered that once you put yourself in the moment with another human being, when you really connect, like as an entrepreneur, negotiator, whatever it is, the relationship is first and foremost the most important thing to nurture. So getting back to, to my history of having to change my career path from actor to making money after a divorce, it can cost you. I worked for a period of time on a government contract, and I love LinkedIn. I find that LinkedIn has so much wonderful energy and possibilities. And I've been a member of LinkedIn for a long time. And as fate would have it, a gentleman, a millionaire, came across my profile, and he says, "Hey, you know what? You got an exciting background. We just got to meet." So I met with him at the Spoke Club in Toronto, and he says, "You know what, Paul?" He says, "You got to write a book." And I thought, not the first time I'd heard it. I've got an exciting background, a lot of which I've put in this book.
That's right.
But I thought, well, that's nice. Thank you very much. But 2 other people that week said the same thing. And I'm thinking, is this the universe knocking on, at first the universe goes, "Hey, I think you ought to write a book." When you don't listen, the second time that little, something happens, and the universe says, "I told you, you should write a book."
Told you
And the
so.
slap is a little bit harder. The third time, it's right across the face. Bam!
Like, wake up.
That's it. 3 people in 1 week telling me I should write a book. So I went back, and I happened to have some time on my hands because I was in between government contracts, and I was looking for work, actually. Had no idea how to write a book. So I went to a bookstore, Chapters, and I picked up a book on how to write a book. So there I am. I read the first 40 pages of the book. Yeah, I know, eh? And I think after 40 pages, I've got this down. So I throw the book down and I start typing and typing and typing. After about, and I wasn't a committed writer. Like I would write 2-3 hours a day. Maybe I'd skip a week, come back and do it for a full week, skip it, have to read what I, yeah, I know. It was, after 2 years, I'm looking at what I had, and I had only words on paper. No chapters, no subchapters, no this. So it took me another 6 months to
organize everything.
That's it.
Wow.
And then that's, that was my book, and I self-published because I believe in the message.
And the name of that one was, again?
Hostage to Myself.
Hostage to Myself. And that's available also right now on
No,
Amazon?
it is not. It is, no, Hostage to Myself is no longer available. What is now available is when HarperCollins picked up Hostage to Myself, they wanted to publish it under the title of Take Control of Your Life, which they have here.
Yep.
They've given it a brand new face, a brand new title, but it is essentially the same book as a self-published book that I did. So that's that's the same book.
Is it all edited by them at all?
Yes, they did. They did some modifications because, well, I've got a couple of police stories, really interesting police stories in this book, and they asked me if I could soften a couple of them up because, you know, I was writing from
very, very like
a little graphic, you know. So which their you know, their guidance and advice was exactly what this required. And a couple of you know, I mean, I quoted a lot of people, and some of the quotes were unnecessary, so they, you know, they modified that. But boy, did they ever do an excellent job on this book. Now it is helping a lot of people in all kinds of areas, including self-sabotage, which this is all about, self-sabotage.
Right.
So that's how I came to, you know, to being an author.
That's a hell of a journey. That's a hell of a journey, and there's so many changes in that path, right? Like you said, the path is never clear, right? So everybody thinks, you know, you graduate from high school, you pick one hobby or whatever, one trade you're going to be really good at. You're going to go and study that trade or that course at university. You're going to get so good at it, you're going to go and get a job right away. And you're going to do that job for the next 30 years. And after 30 years, you're going to happily retire, you know, collecting that pension, you know, being proud of that one thing that you did in your lifetime. In reality, it's not like that. It's, you know, like you said, you are influenced by a lot of the background from your childhood, growing up, you know, trying things out, trying one career, following that path, being given an opportunity to try something else, go into, like you said, where in the Middle East did you go?
I went to Jordan, just outside of
Jordan.
Iraq. Yeah.
So you went to Jordan, spent some time there, came back, did all this additional work, then wrote a book, right? Did some acting as well, like you said.
Yeah.
There's so many different directions, and I guess the one side, and this is something that I'm getting a sense of from your book probably, is keeping your eyes open for opportunities. Oh,
not only that, you said being given opportunities. I'm a believer in creating opportunities. You know, follow your heart's passion. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like this book, I never thought I was going to write a book. It never crossed my mind. But when 3 people tell you you should write a book, if that's something you think that you might want to try, give it a shot.
Yeah.
At the end of my life, I do not want to be visited by the ghosts of missed opportunities saying, you should have tried that. You should have asked that person out. You should have gone for that business contract. You should have done this. I want them to come up and go, hey, we've got no problem, man. What a ride. And give me a high five, man. There you go.
I'll give you a high five.
That's the ride of my life. Yeah.
I like that. That's amazing. Wow. That's just, again, so many different changes, again, from UN peacemaker, negotiator, to writer, and actor, and all the different things. And also, like we're going to talk about the TEDx conference as well. Now, so again, going back to what our show is about, again, we're all about entrepreneurship, businesses, and talking a little bit about negotiation from that side of things, right? So negotiation is not only for negotiating peace and negotiating, you know, your lifestyle with your next employer or whatnot. Negotiation is also business, right? And like you said in the very beginning, negotiating your position or negotiating your next career move is a really, really big part of every professional or an entrepreneur. Whether it's you're trying to negotiate a new contract for your business or trying to negotiate a new contract for yourself.
Sure.
Right? So that must be also a really big part of what this book is covering as well right now, what you're concentrating on.
This is, it is covered in my book in part. I just finished writing a second book. Actually, today was the day that I finished writing it and sent it off to my publisher, which I hope they'll pick up on. But that book is focused on the art of asking and negotiating in life and in business.
Yeah.
Negotiations, simply put, are quests for agreements. You are looking for an agreement with another human being, another individual. That may be for business. That may be for a job. That may be, asking for a particular consideration. Even getting a break in a store, simply by asking for it. That's a negotiation. But you can't just ask like you were a jack in a box saying, hey, will you give me this? And they'll probably say, I don't know you. Probably won't. So there is a process to building the foundation in which you move along to the point where you can ask for a particular consideration, a particular agreement. So that's what a negotiation is. In a nutshell, it's a quest for agreements. How we do it is a process. And it's a very simple process, but far too many people miss it. They miss out on how to negotiate effectively.
They miss the part that leads up to the ask.
Sure.
And they go for the ask too fast.
They go for the ask too fast. It's a four-piece method that I use to teach people how to negotiate and ask successfully. Very simple process. And one which works extremely effectively in every, as you said, every aspect. Doesn't matter if you're negotiating for somebody's life, you're negotiating a contract, you're negotiating with your significant other.
Negotiating with your mother to go to bed eody.
That's it.
To get to bed late.
Late, yes. You want to stay up. You want that extra piece of pie. Hey, Mom.
That's right. That's right. Starts from little things.
Right.
Which leads to me, I guess, to the next question I had is, with the experience of negotiating peace and other things in life, for yourself and for people that you represent, give us maybe a bit of a negotiation story, because I was talking to Brandon, our producer, and we're just kind of covering the show more or less, and there was one story that really particularly caught my attention. It was a story of how when you were in the Middle East, I believe there was a situation where you were either hostage or there's somebody else who was a hostage, and there was a situation where terrorists saved a life instead of taking one. That's right.
That's in my TED Talk. And
we shared that on the show this afternoon.
Oh, that was also
excellent.
Earlier, yeah.
Excellent. I really hope that everybody, tunes into that TED Talk. I don't have too many people who have, and unfortunately, it's at a great loss, because the message in my TED Talk, I truly believe in, and it really is about building relationships.
Yeah.
And treating everybody with dignity and respect. The story that you talk about was not as much a negotiation. I was taken hostage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, along with my partner Jarmo, a Finnish officer, great man, love the guy.
Wow.
Well, we were surrounded. And once you're surrounded, you're not allowed to leave any place. And you're pretty much taken hostage.
That's right.
We were about to be beaten to death, and so we're in the middle of the desert. It's sunrise. We're surrounded by 40 terrorists. And they begin to grab us and start giving us a beating. They had weapons, makeshift weapons. They didn't have guns, fortunately, but they started with the intent to kill us. While that attack was happening, one terrorist from the back of the group shouts out my name, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul, and he starts shouting something else out in Arabic, and he put a stop to the entire attack. And those terrorists, They moved away from both of us and kind of parted away for him to come through. When he came through, he reaches over, and I'm, kneeling on the ground, like that. I'd been fighting as best I could, because I wasn't going to go out without a fight. Man, you're going to go out with a fight, right? So he puts his hand, and he's smiling at me. He says, Mr. Paul, he says, you go, your partner go, that kind of thing. And I recognized him. I had taught this Iraqi cadet that I didn't know was a terrorist at the time, because they had managed to infiltrate the academy undetected.
Yeah. Wow.
I had taught him, and I had built a relationship with him. He liked me, and he remembered that morning, noticed it was me being attacked, and put a stop to it. So we both ended up, being saved.
Just walking away from it.
Walking away from it.
Jesus Christ.
You know what? When you look back at that, and you think, I remember when I was being attacked, the last thing I thought of, one of the last things I thought of were my 2 daughters, and how I would never get to see them again. And when I look back at it, and I'm sitting here with you today, I evaluate that, it comes down to what I talked about earlier, that you can use as an entrepreneur, as a business person. It's building relationships.
Yeah.
It's treating people with dignity and respect. It's connecting with another human being, not knowing that, maybe later your kindness, your approach, the relationship building that you invested in might be reciprocated.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was reciprocated with the gift of my life.
That's probably the biggest gift to give.
Absolutely.
Really and truly.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard stories of, again, people being kind to somebody back in college years, and then they end up having that person as their employer.
Right.
20 years later. What are the chances of that happening, right?
Precisely.
That sounds like a cheesy story for maybe some sort of a movie, but really and truly, these things do happen.
They do.
And that is a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Right? From, again, such a chance of that ever happening before it got too bad.
Yeah, but that approach also saved me from a couple of beatings, when I was a police officer, by the most unsuspecting people who would save you, bikers. On 2 occasions, I can tell you that treating a biker, like back then when I was a cop, the detective, treating them with respect, like in just doing our business, but treating the individual as a respect, later saved me from getting a beating, because it happened to be in their turf, and they showed up and said, hey, this one gets a pass.
Off. Yeah.
Hey, see you later, Paul. Take care. And there you go. But that is the power of relationship building.
Power of, I guess, just being genuine in the way you deal with people, and trying to, again, give them the best of your service and the best of your knowledge, and just, like you said, being kind and welcoming in a lot of ways pays off in the long term.
It does. That coupled with the lack of fear, your intent.
Yeah.
So if you are going to be meeting as entrepreneurs, you're going to be meeting with a new client, preparation is so essential. Who am I going to be meeting with? Can I do a little bit of a background search on them on the internet or LinkedIn or whatever? Who am I going to be meeting with? What is my intent? Am I self-serving? Just want the end goal to be mine?
Yeah.
Or do I have my client's intent, best intent, as equally considered as my own? So your intent must be followed by your actions. And then when you engage with someone, you meet someone, you dress appropriately, you shake their hand, you smile, you make small conversation.
That's right.
Because you are building the most important component of that block, which is the relationship. People will deal with you when they know you, like you, and trust you.
That's right.
And we know frauds. If you're self-serving, if all you want, hey, consider you're going on a date, right?
Okay.
Consider you're going on a date.
I like that.
All right, so let's use this example. You're going on a date. You're meeting somebody. What have you asked that person to do? You've asked that person to give you their precious time.
That's right.
You've asked that person to consider meeting with you. And now you must prepare for the date. So you're going to dress accordingly. You're going to pick a place where the 2 of you can meet. But what if when you meet, you don't show that warmness, that kindness, but you want to talk about yourself?
That's
and
right.
what you're bringing to the table, and apply this to a business meeting where, you've asked for their precious time. Maybe you might not dress accordingly, maybe you do, but when you get there, you make it all about you. I am so great, man, and this is, and I can give you this. I bet you I know your solution. I know your solution right now. I've got a solution for you. And out you pull out the solution without having heard what their needs are,
right.
or what their dream is, or what they hope to achieve by what you give. Let's go back to the date. If you made it all about yourself, you think you get a second date? Don't think so.
Probably not.
But if you make it about them, tell me about you. What are you, and eventually, what are you looking for? And then you begin to calculate, going back to the business meeting perhaps, do I have something that would be good for them? Is it a right fit? If it's not, be honest. You're building a relationship after all.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, listen, I don't think I have what you need, but I think I know somebody who may.
That's
On the
fair.
other hand, you have what they need, and you say, so if I understand you correctly, what you hope to get from this is this. I can help you with that, and this is why. And then you provide them with valid reasons why you're a good fit. If they know you, like you, and trust you because you nurtured that meeting, as opposed to making it about yourself first, you've got a greater chance of them saying yes. And this is what I teach at my keynote talks when I talk about negotiations and conflict resolution.
Keynote talks is?
Keynote talks is where organizations, businesses hire my services to provide a 45-minute to an hour talk at a conference, for example, in front of hundreds of people, sort of like a Tony Robbins kind of thing. That's a keynote talk. So I do
keynote. Sorry, that's
keynotes. Yes,
gotcha.
yeah. So that's a keynote talk, and that's what I do. As a career now.
Yeah.
So yeah. So building the relationship.
So the negotiation, I guess, again, coming from the master himself, negotiations are not so much about the ask as they are about the build up and, again, learning about the other side of it, learning about the other party involved in this arrangement, and finding out what is that they need, what is they're looking for before you place yourself first.
Exactly. Far too many people focus on the outcome, and this is true in so many aspects of our life. We think about the end goal at the expense of focusing on the procedure, how you're getting there, the moments you're spending getting there. Don't focus on the end. If you focus on the process, the process of getting there, developing that trust that is so essential for someone to then tell you on the date, yes, I'd like to see you again. In the business, I think we can do business together.
That's right.
So if you focus on the process, your outcome will happen naturally because they'll want to then work with you. And if not this time, because you can't provide, what it is exactly that they're looking for, you think they might call you the second time around?
I think so.
Absolutely.
I think so. I mean, again, providing value and learning more about them, even if you don't do business today, right? If they liked you, and now they get to know you and they trust you, even without maybe even taking the service you were thinking of offering or were thinking maybe the right fit today, they may come back to you later.
They will come back to you later. Not might. They will come back to you because you have built the relationship. It's like your story of two guys getting along in the high school and later on one employing the other.
That's right.
That never leaves our mind. People won't remember so much what you said. They will remember how you made them feel.
That's right.
So if you make me feel good from the meeting that we had, when I think of somebody, hey, that's the guy I want to call.
That's the guy I want to call.
Right there.
That's right. So it's almost setting yourself up for that connection before that happens many moons after.
Sure.
Do we have something drop there? Oops, that's our Instagram channel. Instagram channel is down and it is up again. Thanks, Brandon.
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Just
we'll
minor.
be back in just a moment.
Minor technical difficulties. All right. I had one more thing on my show Bible. So a lot of entrepreneurs that are in our audience, we're constantly solving problems, right? So I run a mortgage brokerage. I run a credit business. 99% of my job is putting out fires.
Right.
1% is doing the actual work.
Right.
Just so everybody knows. Some entrepreneurs always say that they are the hostage to their business.
Right.
That they feel that, they put all this work into the business, they put all these hours into it, and they get only so much back out of it.
Right.
How do they position themselves in the right way, understanding that you are in control really of your life? Again, going back to your book, taking control of your ability to go out and pursue more opportunities. What are some of the things to maybe, how do they take control of their business? How do they take control of their life?
There's a key within us, that either allows us to unlock the cages that keep us prisoner. And let me explain that. We can put far too much stress on ourselves. Begin to talk to ourselves negatively. Hey, you'll never get through. You'll never find, you'll never find a solution to this. You'll never get to where you want to be. That's negative self-chatter that I talk about extensively in my first book, this one here. We need to unlock that negativity, that negative self-talk, and begin to encourage ourselves by replacing it with positive self-talk.
Yep.
We've heard this before.
Yeah.
But it is something that we need to evaluate. And once in a while, we need to evaluate ourselves. Do a self-evaluation on yourself. Sit down for half an hour, grab a piece of paper. What's working right? What's not working right? So these are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. What do I need to modify and change in order to succeed? One of the things that you need to modify and change in order to succeed is how you talk to yourself and what you believe. Because it is so true.
It's very true.
That motivates you. I never would have gotten the careers and the experiences I had if I would have kept myself as a hostage, to my past, to my limited belief in myself.
I can definitely agree, yeah.
The people who succeed the most are the ones who use that self-chatter to build themselves up, to tell themselves that they are limitless, and to go after what they want in life. And you must believe it, and you must pursue it. And if this is not for you, get off that train, jump on something else that you really enjoy doing, and go after what you want. But change the negativity to positivity, and believe in yourself, because you are worthy, you are limitless, and you are only limited by what limitations you place on yourself.
I'm getting some goosebumps here. So. This is very inspiring. This is great. I mean, that's really a great piece of advice. So really, if you are finding yourself a hostage to your business, if you're finding yourself a hostage to your circumstances, I guess it is a lot about perspective, right? And it's perspective and that self-chatter, like you said, to yourself, encouraging yourself, loving yourself for the strengths that you have, and trying to let go of the weaknesses that dawn on you and maybe disallow you from moving forward.
It does. That, and remember I told you about the self-evaluation.
Right.
So you've got your list that's not working.
Yep.
And maybe telling yourself that it's going to work is just not enough. So how do I solve this problem? What's my solution? Maybe somebody else has a solution. Somebody that you respect in the business who has done who's done exceptionally well. So without fear, and with, with gratitude, you approach that person and say, listen, I really admire what you do. Would you mentor me? Would you, give me some direction and advice? Do you know how many people want to do that who are never asked?
That's very clever.
It sure is. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm taking credit for it, but it is. Because I've done it. I've gone to people and I said, listen, I'm just starting out in this speaking business, and I just wonder, what advice could you give me? Can I buy you a coffee? Now, some people, their time is so precious, they'll charge you for it.
Yep.
But maybe that's an expense that you can justify and should justify. Ask when in doubt. Find your mentor. Listen to tremendous podcasts that build you up, like yours.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. No. So listen to this advice. Take it. Write it down. Take notes. Review it. I have a friend, Jason Gaynard, who has a wonderful podcast called Community Made. And Community Made.
Shout out to Community Made.
Shout out to Community Made, Jason Gaynard, and his podcast is brilliant for entrepreneurs. So I highly recommend it for you. For me, one of my great business inspirations is a friend of mine. Her name is Emily Lyons, and shout out to Emily Lyons, Lyons. This young woman is 32 years old, drop dead beautiful. At the age of 22, she had $50 in her pocket. She started a business, and at the age of 32, she now has 4 extremely successful businesses. She is a multimillionaire. She is on the list this year to be Canada's Entrepreneur of the Year. And Emily, who, if you follow her on LinkedIn or Instagram, always posts some very interesting material, some articles. That's the kind of stuff that she shares, because she's a genuine human being who cares about her clients.
That's right.
At 32 years old, 4 successful businesses, femme fatale. She's got a watch business, And she donates so much, you know, like to great causes, and just a wonderful human being. I look at her as an inspiration. I look at other people like Jason as an inspiration. I look at so many of my friends as inspirations who have made it and continue never to get discouraged. The Rocky movies taught me a valuable lesson.
Keep at it.
If you get knocked down to the mat, doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. The important thing is how many times you get back up.
That's right.
You know, so I love those movies.
I like that. That's beautiful. So really, it is again. That's all. I would say these are all great notes. I should be writing them down. I may write them down after the show. So excuse me if I do.
Awesome.
Now going back to my show Bible, a couple of other things I wanted to cover. Actually, I had so many questions I wanted to ask you. I don't even know if we're going to have all the time in the world to ask them to you.
Right.
Now, some of the negotiations you've been involved with, the stakes were rather high.
Yes.
The parties that were involved as well.
Yes.
Being fixated, were you being whenever the stakes are so high, when it's lives of other people or whatever the deal may be, do you find that you're concentrating more on the result that you are trying to achieve, or like you said earlier, you were more concentrated on the process of trying to get all the parties comfortable and then build up that trust and kind of eventually find a way to making a resolution that makes everybody happy?
That is the only way.
That is the only.
That is that is something that I've discovered over the years, that I've written about in my new book, soon to be released. If you focus on the outcome, your body language, your tone of voice, gives you away, and you miss what might be happening in the person sitting across from you. Those subtle little body language movements where they might cross their arms or feel a little uneasy because you're not listening.
That's right.
You're not listening with your soul to what's being said. You're thinking about the outcome. So I'm looking beyond you as opposed to looking at you.
I like that.
Yeah. Never look at the end goal. The end goal, keep it in mind. Sure, it's going to come out. Your needs, your wants are going to come out. But enjoy the process and focus on the process of getting there, on the person that you're negotiating with. In a hostage negotiation, for example, I know what I want to do.
Of course.
I've planned. In my mind, I said, I want to get everybody out alive. I want to get the hostage negotiator out alive. So this is what I want. But now I need to know who that person is and what it is, what crisis it is that they're experiencing. Because only if I listen to them and say, what is it you want? What is it you need?
Yeah.
How can I help you? How can we work together? If I don't understand or find the answers to those questions, just thinking I've got to get the hostages out alive, he's going to say, bam,
so perspective of the person on the other end is always number one goal, right? So no matter what negotiation it is, whether it is your business colleague or whether it is a hostage negotiation scenario, keeping the other person's perspective and the other person's goals in mind is the very, very first thing, first and foremost, because that ultimately will lead you to the right result.
Drawing it out too,
drawing it out
through what I call in my second book on negotiations. It's called exploratory dialogue, and exploratory dialogue is exactly that. It's asking questions. So what is it that you hope to solve? With our product. What is it you hope to accomplish? Where do you see yourself being? How do you propose to go there? Do you know what you're what you're really after? It's all wonderful questioning.
Is that like something that you've built up as a questionnaire over the years?
Yeah.
And these apply to all different kinds of scenarios?
Every one of them. Every one of them, man. It is.
Like to get a copy of that.
Yeah. You know what?
That should be the next book.
Yeah, that's it.
The what do you call it? Like the notes from the underground, from the
from a former hostage negotiator. But it's true. Everybody has an inherent. We have an inherent want to be heard and understood. Yeah. And say, for example, you're having an argument with your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that is. If you come in with your solution, hey, like I know the solution to this, they're going to feel unvalidated. And now your business client is going to feel the same way. I got a solution for you, as opposed to saying, what is it that you're going through? What is it that you need? How can I help you get there? How can we work at this
It's
together?
very true. The more I think about it, now that you're kind of, I mean, reiterating all these things in my head from, again, like personal negotiations, right, with my significant other. And I don't think that ever, if I ever try to start a conversation with the end goal, I think it should probably kick me out.
Yeah. Well, and that's true of any relationship. You know, like father to daughter or son. You know, like you know, they're angry. There's a reason for that.
Yep.
They know the answer.
That's right.
But you don't, unless you ask. What is it that you're going through?
The process.
Yeah, the process. I really value you. Exactly, understanding. You got it.
Very, very, very interesting stuff. So actually, leading up to the next thing. So, I guess to consider a negotiation a successful negotiation, is it just, so it's not just all about, like we said, it's not just all about getting that end result. It is about getting the other person to know you, getting the other person to like you, getting to trust you.
Right.
It all comes down to those three pillars.
Yes.
Of pretty much.
It does.
Negotiation 101.
It does. Keep in mind, every negotiation begins with the word no.
Of course.
Every negotiation, you know, and we fear the word no. What if they say no? Hey, what if they say no? Does that mean it's the end of the negotiation? No, it means there's more room for exploratory dialogue.
I like that.
So if they say no, what you do is you sit back, you go, no, and that invites more reply. You asked what what a successful negotiation looks like for me. Certainly, an agreement. A mutual agreement without giving too much. And neither side should give away too much.
Yep.
They call that win-win, and I don't believe in win-win. Somebody always ends up winning, and somebody ends up losing.
That's right.
So when you plan for your negotiation, you imagine, what is it that I can comfortably agree to myself? And say, for example, I'm negotiating with you, and we can't reach an agreement because you're asking far too much. And I wasn't prepared to give you that much. And I tell you, if I did that, my profits would suffer so much, I just can't do it. Let's work on a different solution. Let's see if we can, we can get closer to an agreement here. And if at the end of the day, it's a no because I decide that if I do that, I'm going to be spending too much, walking away from that negotiation is a win.
It's very true.
I win. If you're in a bad
I like that.
Yes. If you're in a bad relationship and you're negotiating with your significant other and they want far too much or are not giving you enough, sometimes walking away from that negotiation is a win for you.
I love that. I think we should quote that, Brendan.
Yes, and this will be in my second book, like I said. But yes, knowing what your bottom line is, knowing what you want in the preparation phase. I know what I can live with. I know what I can't live with. And be true to yourself. Because when you're negotiating and you're in the moment and it's, I don't want to hurt their feelings and maybe this will be okay. No, if it's a maybe in your own mind, you've got to, remove yourself from the emotion of the moment and focus on the rationale.
I like that. Remove yourself from the emotion of the moment.
Yes.
And work on the rationale.
We can get emotionally tied up with somebody, not willing
That's a big problem with people who are in sales, right? I mean, if you're running a business and you're out there, you're selling jobs, you're selling yourself, you're selling your service, that's the part that's tough.
That's the part that's tough. But remember, if you've built a relationship on trust, likability, and time, even if it's a no, it may be a yes.
Maybe a yes.
Because you may have a contact that calls you up, or you may call them up in 3 or 4 months and say, hey, just wondering how things are going, whether we can, we can do some work together. I've got something new you might be interested in.
I like that.
Yeah, just talking like a human being.
Just keep at it.
Oh, yeah.
Being consistent. No is just maybe a temporary no.
That's right. Yes.
Right? It may be just a situational, and maybe just the timing is wrong.
Right.
The timing may be right later.
Right.
Especially in a business, I think, of all things, the timing is everything.
Absolutely.
Right? What may be a no today, maybe a definite yes just in a few months, maybe a few days from now.
Yep. And remember what I said a little bit earlier. As an entrepreneur, if you were asking to meet with someone and they've agreed to it, what a great start.
That is a great start. I love that.
That means I'm interested in what you have. So my job is to make sure that what I present to them is my absolute best. And I'd better be ready to answer their concerns. So I do a little bit of role playing. Okay, what is it that my client may ask of me? Do I have an answer? It's not called a script. I don't believe in scripts, but I do believe in being prepared. So you imagine, I might sit down with you and say, hey, listen, I've got a big negotiation going on tomorrow. Do you mind playing the negotiator on that side, and I'll ask you certain things, and you throw whatever concerns or objections you may have, and I'll see if I can answer that. So you take half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, have fun with your buddy or whatever, switch up the roles, tomorrow, when that question goes up, you got it in your mind and say, I'm glad you asked me that.
I like that.
Yeah, for the last 5 years, this is what we've been doing to get ourselves to that stage. Today we have, so you've got your answer ready, as opposed to going, well, that was a good one.
I haven't covered that off.
Yeah,
today.
I wonder, can I get back to you? Every once in a while you might say, they're going to throw a question at you where they, you don't have an answer. So you're going to say, you know what, John, I don't have an answer to that. I don't, but I'm going to get right back to you, And then you just, continue. So preparation, role-playing, imagining what the concerns or what the objections might be, and resolving, working on the process as opposed to the outcome. That's what gets you successful.
Really and truly success, I guess, in the end of the day, is building the relationships and building the trust, likability, and getting people to know you better.
That is my recipe, in some form, as you said.
We just keep going back to the same three, and you know what?
Yeah.
It seems like it's a recurring model for pretty much everything that we're talking about. Because without those three things, it's very hard to build a relationship, a business, an agreement.
Right.
And any kind of hostage negotiation would go completely, outside of any kind of plan without those three things being in place.
Imagine this. I'm gonna ask you all to imagine this. As a professional interrogator, I was interrogating murderers, rapists, all kinds of criminals, bikers, gang members. And when I established that they know me, like me, and trust me, they gave me my end goal. I focused on the process, but they gave me the confession. That's huge, because they knew that by doing so, they could go to jail for 30 years. So they gave me that. Did it end there? No. 6 months, 9 months, a year later, when I met them in court, they'd look over, looking for me. Their defense lawyer said, don't you talk to that Nadeau, don't you talk to them. What would they do as soon as they saw me? Hey, Paul, how's it going? And I'd say, hey, Dan, it's going great. Man, how have you been? Oh, not so good, man. Hey, listen, one of these days, man, you and I, we're going to sit down, we're going to chat, And that's the power of connection. Imagine a murderer telling me that. Oh, they do. Imagine a rapist telling me that. Oh, they do. But here's the thing. People say, how can you talk to a murderer? How can you talk to a rapist? Guess what? I'm not talking to the act. I'm talking to the human being.
That's right.
I remove the bad thing that they've done temporarily as I get into the process. If I walked in thinking they've done me harm before, and this could be in a business, somebody's done you harm before. Yep. You walk in with that attitude, well, they've done me harm before, so your ego starts to get in the way. Well, I've seen so many interrogators and negotiators blow it because their ego got in the way. They thought of the act as opposed to the human being.
Yeah.
So I remove the act, I talk to the human being, make that connection, and then bring back, after 45 minutes of dialogue or whatever, and say, you know what, Ralph, we were here to talk about that murder. And like it's amazing how receptive they are. Their body language first went from this.
Defensive.
Yeah,
right.
Sucking on their teeth because they hate you, despise you, to 15, 20, 30 minutes later, going like this and chatting, openly like this with their body language, genuinely sincere. When you bring up the topic, they go into a little bit of a defensive mode, but they know you, like you, and trust you. Yeah. And now they want to work with you.
Wow. That's a lot to take. I mean, honestly, it really is a great perspective if you think about it. I mean, going into, again, like you said, almost any situation, going in for the kill from the get-go and trying to go for that end result is just never going to get you anywhere.
No, it's not.
Building that relationship really is everything, especially in those scenarios where, it's such an intense situation right from the get-go. Like, I wouldn't know how to break the ice in those scenarios. So, kudos to you. I'm my hat is off to you for all those years of doing that. That's just crazy amount.
You know how you break the ice? You break the ice by being in the moment. By being non-judgmental, by wanting, you have that spirit of helping. Mm-hmm. So it comes out in your voice. Hey, hi, my name is Paul. I am the hostage negotiator. I'm here to help. Tell me, are you okay? You doing all right? How's everybody in there? Is everybody safe? Let me tell you this. I'm here to help. I really want to help you. I want to help everybody in there. You call me Paul. What's going on? Just, what's going on today? How can we help each other? And then just shut up. But that
Amazing.
calm. So again, in your evaluation, the time when you evaluate yourself and how you approach people, what is your intent? And how am I going to engage with that person? What kind of what tone of language? How do I present myself?
That's right. I also find that the way you speak, and this is maybe, again, this probably is just natural to you at this point, but you have good dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Because you raise your voice a little bit sometimes, right? When you start the conversation, you lower it down a little bit, and then you almost like tell me a secret almost.
Right.
Sometimes
You're very observant.
to create that connection, right? So I like that, and that's again just part of, I guess, just doing it for all these years.
It is, but it's also something that you can learn, and I teach it in my second book.
Oh.
You practice. Remember I told you about role play?
Yep.
Yes, use your voice, the fluctuations, the pauses. You sit there, you listen to their question, and you pause for a moment. I'm really glad you asked me that. And then you go in. So using your tone of voice. If they get excited, you lower your voice. You identify the emotion they may be going through, and you might say, John, I just noticed that you got upset by something I just said. What was it that I said that upset you? So that, late night, radio host show, where they lower their voice and say,
very
"Good
intimate.
Evening." It is.
It feels very intimate.
That's it. Wow, you're very observant. Yeah, and that's what you need. So practice. Yes, it came about as through years of experience, but I also had a little bit of this before I learned everything because I had to.
Yeah, well, again, coming from the background of, doing hostage negotiations and being a detective and criminal detective especially, I mean, you have to have that skill to be able to talk to a lot of the people because, like I said, it's very hard to break that ice. But I think with being dynamic in your voice, again, going for the process and not for the end result, and all these things together really add up to have quite a nice setup.
Right. Yeah.
Right, to get the end result the way we want it.
These are all essential keys, and they can be learned. So don't be discouraged if you think that you don't have all the skills, because these are things that you can develop and learn, providing you are passionate enough and willing enough to put the time and the effort into it. And if you're not, you're in the wrong business. Far too many people settle. We can practice something forever and never get it right because we're not practicing it well, and we're not practicing it correctly. So practice makes perfect does not really, that's not a true statement. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Perfect practice makes perfect. I
yeah.
like that.
So practice the skills. Use your voice, your body language, be aware of your body language. So if you're talking to me and I've got my hands like this, this usually indicates I'm a little bit nervous, that kind of thing. If I wring my hands a little bit, guess what? You're evaluating me. You're watching me. You're looking over like that. If I start picking away, it's like I'm not really interested or I'm afraid of what you're about to say. So I have a friend, Mark Bowden, who is an amazing body language expert, one of the world's renowned body language experts. He's got a couple of books out on the market as well. This guy, he and I have interesting chats about...
Oh man, I would love to listen to those.
We have some great, just like you and I. We sit in a coffee shop and we chat about it because he knows I've done it for years and years and years. Watched body language. I'm a body language expert. He is a body language expert. So when I get together with him and we chat, I discover things, he discovers things. We have a great time. But be aware of your body. Be aware of what your partner or your business partner or whoever you're negotiating with is transmitting to you. And pick up on those subtle cues, So always be taking mental snapshots. So I take a mental snapshot of you here now. 2 seconds later, a mental snapshot. 3 seconds later. And then all of a sudden, 20 seconds down, the snapshot is different. All of a sudden, you've turned your body away from me. You're looking for an exit, And I have to address that, and identify...
I think I've noticed that, but I don't think I ever paid enough attention to it.
Pay attention to it. That's one of those white elephants that pops out, like an emotion has been triggered. And if you ignore the emotion and speed things up or try to repeat yourself, it doesn't address the person's emotion, what they're thinking, considering right now. So if you're talking to, for example, your significant other, and you see that all of a sudden, there's something they did or whatever, or, and you try to speed things up and repeat what you said, that's not going to get you anywhere. What they're going to be thinking of is their central theme, their central thought, their dominant thought is going to be, you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention to me.
Very true.
So when you stop and go, I sense something is wrong, or whatever your choice of words, I think you might have been angry by what I just said or concerned by what I just said. Are you concerned? Exploratory dialogue. Are you concerned?
Exactly,
Identify the white elephant. White elephants are things that you don't want, right? Back historically, they were the gifts that you gave someone to annoy the hell out of them. They couldn't get rid of it. But today, white elephants float around. This is my perspective. They float around and they jump into your negotiatee's body. They're body shifters or body and they go and identify themselves an emotion. All of a sudden, there's an emotion. And they are sitting there waiting to see if they're going to be validated and noticed. And if they don't, they're going to stay. And elephants have a way of crushing you in your deal. So once you identify that white elephant and say, in your mind, I notice a white elephant just dropped in. And you translate that to, I notice that something I said may have upset you. The white elephant is inside, your negotiatee saying, okay, this ought to be interesting. He or she just addressed my needs. No need for me to stay here. Off they go looking for another subject because they were validated. You said welcome, but you can't stay for too long.
You don't want to rub it in, so to speak, right?
I don't want it to drag out.
Yeah.
I want to
touch on it.
Well, I know, not only touch on it, I want to explore that emotion completely. I really want to make sure that I understand correctly what it is that you're concerned about, what objection you may have, and how we might resolve that. Once I've done that completely, that white elephant then leaves. You've satisfied me. I'm happy. I'm back on track. My body language is open.
Easy.
Let's carry on, because we're getting closer. You actually listened to me, and you addressed my problem is what they're thinking.
You know what? Now that I start, this really starts to click, because I feel like there is things that I wasn't even paying attention to. Just, again, running the business, being in sales, and talking to people. And, sales is always negotiation. And just now that I'm starting to think about it, every time I would try to slow down on those moments, when I start notice, and again, these are very subtle things. I don't think I was really paying attention to the way you do.
Yeah.
But just noticing somebody getting slightly uncomfortable and addressing that problem right there and then almost always guaranteed a positive result.
Always. It does. It will guarantee you.
Really and truly. It's just starting to really hit me right now. I'm sitting here, I'm starting to go through hundreds and hundreds of scenarios where this actually happened. Awesome. And somebody would go like this and they scratch their foot. Or they'll go, this is very common. Yep. Right?
That's a very common. This one too, rubbing the nose.
This one right here is very common.
Doing one of these. Yep.
And now that I start to think about it, I'm going to really start paying attention to these. Yeah. And the gentleman you talked about, it's
Mark Bowden.
Mark Bowden.
A shout out to Mark. Mark, if you're listening to this, amazing man, good friend.
And he's got, you said, books out on this specifically.
Yes, on body language specifically.
Amazing.
His latest book, which is Truth and Lies, one of my stories starts his book off.
Oh, is that right?
It's available now in all bookstores, as is mine.
Love it.
In all bookstores, so yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's the story on...
this one was a gang member.
Wow.
I got to tell you this. Yeah, I know I speak too...
No, I love this. This is amazing.
All right. So I was working polygraph, and for those familiar with polygraph, it's called a lie detector instrument. It doesn't detect whether you're telling a lie or not. What it does do, it records the physiological changes in you when you're heightened, when you're nervous about something. So there's a process to doing this. So once we ask the right questions in the right method, and for example, did you steal, the $2,000? We'll be able to determine whether or not deception is there.
Yeah.
By the greatest change in physiology. The homicide squad were investigating a homicide of a gang member, and in the rival gang in which they thought that the killer was, they also identified a gang member that they thought might, have the information, but probably didn't do it. So they wanted to polygraph him.
This is the guy. All right.
So he comes in, and the polygraph guy, the homicide guy's got a way of kind of convincing people to go in and take the test, even though they don't want to, but that's a whole different story. But this guy shows up, and I knew he was reluctant. He walks in. The first thing he does is sits down in the chair. He's doing one of these. He's not even looking at me. You be me. And he's sitting there like this. And I, start off with, I'm standing up and I Start off and, hi, my name is Paul. You know, he doesn't shake my hand. Oh, no.
So
He's
you
not
just
even
sit-
looking
you
at
just
me.
sit sitting like this.
Oh, yeah. No, like this. Completely crossed. And
Tough one.
Yep, and just sucking on his teeth. So I put out my hand. I start off, you know, by saying, hi, my name is Paul. I'm the polygraph examiner. I leave it out there for about 5-10 seconds. He doesn't pick it up. I say, I understand. You're not shaking my hand. I get it. You don't want to be here. I can see that. I'm going to tell you something. Before we even get started, here are your rights. So I tell him what his rights are. And then I say, I'm here to treat you with dignity and respect. And I would appreciate the same in return. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to find you guilty of anything. All I want to do is talk with you and get some information from you. So before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about myself. And that's starting to build a relationship.
Getting him to know you.
Know you, like you, and trust you.
I love that.
Right? So he goes like this. I hate cops. So I'm sitting down now. You be him. And I lean in and I go, you know what? I hate most of the guys I work with, too. Some of them are just too hard-nosed and give the public too much of a hard time. I'm with you on that one. And I sat back. Was I lying? No. Some of the guys I worked with I didn't like because they had the wrong approach towards the community. They weren't, you know, like into helping as much as they were into prosecuting and enforcing.
Right.
So I start to talk with that little, hey, I'm with you on this. You know, he starts to open up. Within half an hour, you know what we're doing? We're grabbing our cell phones, and we met, you know, somewhere in between. He had 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
So we got our cell phones out, and I said, you got pictures of your daughters? He pulls out his cell phone. He goes, yeah. And he goes like, oh, that's great. You know what? They're beautiful. So where do you see them in 10 years from now? And, you know, how often do you get to see them? Oh, I love these girls, you know. So we're talking about our daughters, right? And that's building rapport, right? So anyways, after about 45 minutes, he goes, Paul, what do you want to know? And now he's relaxed, right? I said,
wow.
So I said,
Oh,
well, you know,
wow.
I said,
Oh,
you know, Andre, what we want is the location of the body and who done it. And he says, Paul, remember we're now on first name basis. He says, Paul, can you guarantee me something? I said, what's that? He says, that my name will never come out. I said, Andre, give me a second. Get out of my chair. I leave the room. I go talk to the homicide guys, and I say, can we guarantee that his name will never come out in the investigation? They said, yes, we can. He will be a unidentified, confidential informant. We can keep that from the courts, from the lawyers, from everybody. We guarantee it, and that's the truth. I take that to the bank.
Yeah.
My guys would never lie to me on something like that, and I know that that's true. Confidential, unidentified informant. So I walk back in. I knew the answer, but I wanted to confirm the answer, which is okay during a negotiation.
Yep.
I'll get right back to you. And when I got back in, I said, you've got our word. And he gave me the location, the whodunit, and within a few days, that guy was arrested, the body was located, I got what I was after, and I never even had to ask for it. That's the power of getting to know you, like you, and trust you. That's the power of it. That's happened on more than one.
That's crazy.
When you start chatting, the guy likes you so much and says, I know what you're after. You want to know where the money is, right? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. All right, you got me. And it's just that powerful,
wow.
man. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's honestly just unbelievable. It's crazy how much that approach, and again, treating people with dignity and respect, gets for you. Like, it's besides business. Like, these are intense situations.
Yes.
Business isn't even that intense, in my opinion, when it comes down to comparing this and business. In business, you can be relaxed. You can, throw a joke there into.
Sure.
So why don't we? Why don't we all do that?
Exactly. You know what? Get comfortable.
The
Get
hell?
friendly.
Get
Get friendly. It doesn't necessarily mean that you guys are going to have barbecues every weekend
Of
or
course,
go golfing,
of course.
but guess what? I consider you a friend, or at least we have a friendly business relationship going on here, So I like you. And by golly, you know what? I was going to go with XYZ because they have a little bit of a better price. But boy, oh boy, I know that you're going to deliver on your promises. I trust that you're going to deliver on everything that you're going to do. I know that you're going to be by my side every step of the way. So, yeah.
That's really it. All those things really kind of really put that aspect of it in perspective. At least for me, I love this. This is really kind of, I'm like self-validating a lot of things right now as I'm interviewing you.
That's
so.
what I want for everybody, you know. Yeah.
So these are all great little things. So the other side of it is also started talking a little bit about strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
In just not necessarily business people, just everybody in general, right?
Right.
Something that I really liked what you mentioned earlier. You said being self-aware of those strengths and weaknesses. So have you ever had anybody come back to you and say, Paul, you know what? I listened to that TED talk. I was talking to you about this. I read your book. I was really trying to think about what you said about the strengths and the weaknesses, and just understanding just understanding what your strengths are, understanding what you're not really that great at, how can that really put you to the next level?
Well, to answer your question, yes, I've had people come back and say that doing that practice, practicing that helped to identify something that they were reluctant to, because we have to be very honest, brutally honest with ourselves. When we expose our weaknesses, we have to want to. If I'm rubbing people the wrong way, I need to know, okay, every person seems to be turned off by me. Yeah. What's the solution? I might have to go to a friend and say, all right, buddy, what am I doing? And he's saying, you always put your foot in your mouth, and this is what you do. And so you go, okay, well, how can I change that? Well, these are the steps, or you pick up something that might help you. You listen to a seminar, you listen to a podcast like yours. What's something that might help you? But yes, the exercise of identifying your strengths and identifying your weaknesses are so important. Do it once every 2 weeks to begin with. What's working, what's not? What do I need to modify? I need to modify this. How do I go modifying that? Do I need help? Do I need some guidance? Do I need this? Do I need to pick up some material, whatever it is, to help me through this? Because I can change.
Yeah, I guess that's really ultimately the control of your life, right?
It's taking control of your life.
Again, if you are able to siphon through your weaknesses and strengths in a manner like that, where you are reviewing it almost like on a monthly basis, and that could be, I think I subconsciously do that, where every so often, every month or 2 months, 6 months, you always want to look back and say, okay, what are some of the things that I'm doing well and I'm doing really, really well at, and what are some things I'm not really doing so great at, and what am I doing wrong? Like what is not getting us to that next level?
Right.
And I will say, from my personal experience, you almost need that, like you said, maybe not daily, but you almost need that like every couple of weeks, just to kind of reiterate.
You do. I have an exercise in this book that tells you to do exactly that, and you have to write it down, guys.
You have to write it down. If you didn't write it down, it never happened.
That's right. And writing it down, or even making a promise to yourself. Write down on a piece of paper, I promise to. So you're making a promise to yourself. Like I promise to. Make a promise to somebody else. I promise to. Before finishing my first book, I never thought I would finish. And then I finally decided in my head, okay, I need to make a commitment. And to myself, how do I make a commitment? I went on Facebook. I said to my Facebook friends, never thinking anybody would answer, I said, so I'm writing a book. And, I will be finished in 3 months. I got about 10 hits on it. People saying, hey, congratulations. Now I was committed, but I committed to myself.
You committed to yourself.
So commit to yourself. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing. A couple more things. Speaking of the book, right? So we already started covering a little bit about the book.
Right.
So taking control of your life teaches people how to control their chaos.
Right.
Whether it comes from within or from the outside, by using some of the techniques you have mastered through your experiences in high-pressure, high-stakes scenarios. So just maybe give us a little bit of an outline of the book. So we already talked a little bit about how the book covers strengths and weaknesses and how to control those. Those are things that are very controllable.
Right.
And you can definitely make some advancement on those, almost like you said, bi-weekly or maybe even daily if you want to really put that much work into it and really commit to it. Just walk us a little bit through it. So what are some of the other things we're talking about in the book?
Sure. In this book really is about how to take control of your life by managing, by addressing self-sabotage that we have. So we self-sabotage ourselves by the things that we tell ourselves, or by the fear that we have, or the lack or complete absence of taking the right action. So we can remain in a hostage state, which I mean we hostage ourselves. We never get any further. We're afraid to get any further. We tell ourselves that we won't succeed, whatever it is. We can choose that. or we can choose option B, which is what my book teaches you to do, is to release yourself, believe in yourself, start telling yourself positive things by following through with positive action, and see how your life changes. This book addresses, it's so much what I came up with, it's what other people that I dealt with, victims of crime, who taught me something about how they coped with being victims of sexual assault, some of the most heinous crimes, how they coped. And I began to put this into, a journal of observations of how people can be their best selves and get beyond what happened to them in the past to live a life. They took control of their life. So this book really, it addresses victims of sexual assault, child abuse. It addresses people who are hopeless. It addresses people, who are desperate. It addresses the average individual who goes through that self-doubt all the time. And since this book was released, and I am so proud of this and so humbled by this, is that it's been out for about 6 weeks. I've got some great reviews. I also got people connecting with me saying, I was a victim of sexual assault in my past. Your book helped me cope and deal with it. One guy was borderline schizophrenic. He read my book, and it gave him so much hope and courage. He was actually in a facility, like he was, and it helped get him out because he started to believe and understand what he was going through. I've had people from who have suffered post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
One clinical psychologist is using my book with his patients, how to deal with post-traumatic stress. The average person can benefit with my book, by understanding that we are hostage by choice. We are hostage to ourselves by choice. There's an external hostage taking in which people grab you and you have no control over it, and there's an internal hostage crisis that happens when you take yourself hostage. I'll never get that date. I'll never get that job. I'll never get that deal. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. You know what? I may as well not try. So you imagine these cages in your mind, and you put yourself in one of those cages and you lock it.
That's right.
With your imaginary padlock. But the moment you start saying, wait a minute, I am limitless. I'm worthy. I'm just as good as anybody else. In fact, I've got so much to share, and I am a positive individual. That's how you take control of your life.
Wow. I might have to get a copy.
Well, what do you mean you might have to get a copy? I'd be disappointed
I'm gonna
if
have
you
to get a
didn't.
copy.
Oh my God! See
This
the
is,
language. Listen very carefully to a person's language. I might have to get a copy of that. As opposed to I will get a copy of that because
Paul,
it will serve me.
You know what? I
think
definitely
what
will
we're
get
going
a
to do, I
copy.
think it's a great idea. Let's pick up more than one copy.
Yeah, we should.
And give one away next week over the show.
I like that.
I like that
okay with
idea.
you.
That's a great idea.
Let's give one away next week. So we're going to
Love
spend next week posting some more of your videos.
Thank you.
And if they get any comments, shares, or likes on this video and some more videos, we'll put them in a draw for next Tuesday.
I like that.
And we'll be able to mail them a copy of the book.
And
that is a fantastic idea.
And you know what? And I do kind of want a copy of the book. If I can get one from you, signed.
Yeah. Yes, signed. You can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I might as well.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. Buy the book and then take him out for coffee.
That's right. Well, actually, that was going to be my
Buy
next
the
one
book.
after.
Yep.
Buy the book.
I was going to say that.
I don't like the way you think.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have any more time there? How are we doing on timing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I talk too much.
Brandon, we're okay on timing?
Oh.
We're okay on timing there?
Do we have enough time?
We've been on for an hour and a half.
Oh, no.
Oh, we've been over. Okay. So,
we've been on.
you know what? We'll do just a couple of last questions, guys. Again, not take any
We're
more
good. I mean,
away from the night.
Okay, good.
Just not to drag it on for over 2 hours.
No.
Some of these things
people
are
are getting tired.
Some of these things are very, very important to get into. I think a lot of it really required the depth that you got into for me to really understand the mechanics of how things happen and all that. And I think that was great insight for everybody else as well. Again, looking at situations like hostage negotiations and again, interrogations of criminals, like these are such high intensity scenarios where, again, I feel like a lot of the problems we deal with on a daily basis are, they're really a grain of sand compared to a lot of these things happening. So I really, really am looking forward to reading this. I think this is going to be an amazing read. And with all these different, again, stories from the past, from doing all those negotiations in the Middle East and here as well. There's really just a lot of content we'll never get to cover in a 1 hour show, but definitely something we can cover in the book. What else did I have here on my show Bible? Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit sidetracked.
Yeah, sorry,
here.
folks. I tend to talk a lot, and yeah, but I have a lot of information to share.
You
so,
do,
yeah.
you do, and I'm really thankful for all of that. That is great information. Okay, so last thing I wanted to chat with you about is just a little bit about trust. On average, I find this is just my personal experience, right? So I do deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. Most of my customers for the mortgages and credit, I do a lot of commercial financing. So a lot of my customers are entrepreneurs and business owners. And something that I found a lot over the course of the years of being in the business that I'm in is that when I do talk to a lot of the more successful entrepreneurs and individuals, they really seem to really kind of double down on that trust aspect of any relationship and agreement.
Sure.
Right, and so as going back to our know, like, and trust, right? So those three main things. As a business person who's in finance, trust is everything.
Right.
And so, and just kind of speaking of how trust can impact other businesses, other sides of your life, right? So, and again, looking at entrepreneurs, looking at them succeed, looking at them build these beautiful, awesome, large businesses, putting all that effort into it, I just feel that trust is what's really kind of misunderstood and maybe even misappreciated or underappreciated in a lot of the scenarios. So for somebody who is maybe starting not maybe a business, but just maybe going into a new career or starting a new relationship, how would you recommend to approach the aspect of trust? Maybe, I guess, are you trying? Do you see what I'm trying to do?
I know exactly what you're saying. Trust is not something that you don't take.
Exactly, it's not something you can really even account or put a name on.
No.
It's a feeling.
It's something that you earn.
Yes.
And you earn trust by being true to your word.
Mm-hmm.
If you say something, mean it. If you don't want to mean it, don't say it. So if I make you a promise, I'd better deliver on my promise.
That's right.
I cannot let you down because your memory, remember I said it's not so much what people say, that gives them that warm feeling about you. It's how you made them feel that once,
That's right.
So if you are true to your word, then they will know that you are true to your word. If you follow up with them, you're building trust. But if you cannot deliver, you cannot deliver. You say so. I can't deliver. I can't do this. At least you're being honest. Trust is something that you earn. So by building trust, you are building your word. And if you let anybody down, even once, you may cripple that relationship or any chance of getting anything subsequently from that point on. So trust is something that you earn, and you earn it by keeping your word, by being thoughtful, by being prepared, and by giving everything that you possibly can, and then making that happen to make the other person feel that, yes, I can trust you. And that's how you do it.
And that's really what separates, again, the more successful and less successful business people too, right? So it is following through on your word and following through on your expertise and delivering what you promise.
Right.
Really and truly. It's just that I guess that part of it is so mysterious to a lot of people. They always try to compare what is it that separates the two. And in my opinion, it's understanding of trust and understanding how to build it.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the greatest things in business you can have.
It is.
Negotiation is an amazing skill.
Yeah.
But building that trust, and without trust, there is no business.
Remember I told you about intent?
Yeah.
What your intent is? Sometimes it's nice to tell you're the person you're negotiating with what your intent is. What is my intent? Okay, so I'm going to say to you, John, if we agree on this, this is my promise to you, and I'll commit my promise to paper. I commit to do these things, and my word is my bond. I will show you by the actions I take. I guarantee you this will happen, and then make it happen. Mm-hmm. But sometimes verbalize what it is that you intend to do for them and how much they can trust you. Not by saying, hey, you can trust me. No, this is what I plan to do, and I will earn your trust. You will discover that I am trustworthy. And sometimes just telling somebody that is enough to get them to say...
Well, it starts it, right?
It does.
It starts it.
It does.
In the end of the day, I guess you got to start with something, and the promise and being able to deliver that promise is everything in business.
Exactly.
Really and truly. So that's just one of the other things I want to talk to you about. And you know what? Really and truly, again, going back to our audience, going back to the fact that this is a very entrepreneurial audience. A lot of the guys looking to start new businesses or pursuing new careers. There's a lot of tips to take away from this interview, I think. Brandon can agree. But what we'll typically like to do is in the end of our interviews, again, considering that this is an entrepreneurial audience, considering that these are people who are looking to build businesses or start new career paths, if we could summarize all this information down to maybe 3 top tips or top recommendations, straight from taking control of your life and straight from your experience, what are some of the most underestimated 3 things that people just forget about and don't pay enough attention to that could really, really affect their ability to position themselves in their community, in their business, in their life as winners?
Okay. Number 1, believe in yourself and what you bring to the table. Absolute must. You must believe in your product. Your product sometimes is yourself, depending on the circumstances, so you must believe in it to make it work. Number 2, consider one of the most important lessons that I've learned in my extensive career is that the person sitting across from you is just like you. They feel the way you do, they cry, they love the way that you do, so you must consider their feelings. You must focus on the process, on the individual, as opposed to the outcome. And number 3, take whatever action is necessary to find what it is that you're passionate about and do it. You know, just believe in yourself, treat the person as an individual the way that you would like to be treated yourself. You focus on the individual as opposed to the outcome, and then take whatever action is necessary to bring this all together. So those are the 3 things.
Love it. Those are great. I love the second one especially.
Yeah. It's what changed everything for me. When I say not everything, but it changed so much for me in getting people to cooperate.
It's just almost hard to ignore, right? That's essentially what
it is. You know, I mean, who wants to hurt somebody that they like? You know, you just don't want to. And why do they like you? Because you happen to get to them. You know,
to that level
by treating them the way that you wanted to be treated yourself. It's in every religion.
It's crazy how everything that some people are just that much more likable or that much more friendly, but really and truly it is a skill like anything else. It's a skill as good as playing guitar or I don't know, making up music videos on your computer or playing ping pong.
That's it.
Right? It's the hours that you put into it, and if you put your hours into learning those skills and developing the ability to, I guess, be easy with people and get them to like you and get them to talk to, that is really an incredible skill no matter where you go.
It is.
No matter where you go, you'll always find a place and you always feel like you're at home and you always feel like you're wanted and needed in those places. And that's really a powerful thing in its own.
It is.
Really and truly.
Truly powerful.
Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I feel like I've learned so much today. I am going to go back home, rewatch the video, and pick up the book on the way out.
Right on. Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Paul Nadeau.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, man. It's been absolutely awesome.
My pleasure. My pleasure, man.
Hostage negotiator, UN international peacekeeper, detective in major crimes, consultant to major news networks for acts of global terrorism and hostage-taking, regular guest on Sirius XM, a keynote speaker. His latest book, Take Control of Your Life, is currently available through North America and will soon be available across the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Paul Nadeau. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And please do make sure to follow him, subscribe to. We have Facebook channels.
Yes, we have Facebook. And let's get the hits on my TED Talk, please.
TED Talk, right? And we will. We will probably repost that. I would love to repost that later in the week as well. We can repost that, guys. Please do make sure to subscribe and follow. Great content, great perspective. You have to check it out.
And I ask you one thing. If you do, and when you do, not if, when you do pick up my book, if you like it, please give it a 5-star review on Amazon, because it helps people. Not only, it's not the sales, it helps people. And by reading reviews that are positive, it may help somebody's life by picking it up. So please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great idea. Guys, this was your host, Konstantin Polyakov, the Pocket Broker, as always.